Welcome to the Volunteer Youth Worker Podcast. Youth ministries rise and fall on the volunteers, so we are here to encourage and equip you. Join the conversation as we tackle the practical questions you are asking so you can help the next generation know Jesus.
Hey everyone, welcome back. We've got part 2 of the conversation I got to have with Dr. Ken Castor. And so we're going to jump right in. If you missed part 1, that was last week's conversation. And he kind of sets the stage and we explain how we got to this point. But he continues on answering some great questions that came in. And so let's go right to that conversation. Yeah. That's a good one. And then maybe kind of jumping off that, and okay, if we have some time to make sure we're catching all of our students, what do we do for the youth that don't participate that much? They're very quiet. Somebody writes, discern calling out leadership opportunities for the quieter, not so outgoing extroverted students. And so this kind of moves, because I know the way we talk is a little bit like, hey, we're doing discipleship with them. And then if we're thinking about, okay, also helping them both grow deeper in their faith, but then level up their leadership opportunities, I think that's kind of where these questions go a little bit more so, is what does leadership development look like for somebody that isn't the loud, extroverted one that naturally seems to garner those kinds of opportunities?
It's a funny question, because what it reveals to me is that we kind of think youth ministry is a box for extroverts, and then we always, because so many of the questions are always, well, what about the student who doesn't talk? And sometimes it's about the student who talks all the time and monopolizes it. Mm-hmm. But really, what that question is, hey, a student's talking all the time and they're not allowing others to talk who are maybe more introverted. So really that's the question, like, how do I get others to open up and integrate into our system? So what that tells me is maybe our system is built for extroverts and we have to rethink our system. So if our youth ministry, if we're constantly running into a problem where it seems like people who are more shy or more withdrawn in themselves, maybe they take longer to answer, maybe they're more of a thinker before they talk, are we creating opportunities for those thinkers to think and then talk? And so often we're like demanding immediate response. Are we brave enough to create small group environments, for instance, where thinkers can think and have time to process? And if not, then we're going to have to I think we have to find ways for those people to be able to articulate and express themselves. So that might be more of a one-on-one. It might be more of a situation of quiet reflection before there are answers given. So, hey, I want all of you to go for a walk for 5 minutes and think about this question, come back and give us your top 3 ideas or something like that. I mean, I don't know what it is. Maybe that's a bad example and you're like, oh, it's not going to work. But I'm just throwing out an idea. Sure. Reformulate how you do the structure of your ministry if you've got a number of students like that. And I would also encourage that you have, if you have some extra volunteer leaders, not everybody has that luxury, but if you have some extra volunteer leaders, maybe make it part of their goal for a youth group night to really be by and encourage those more withdrawn students. And invest in those students strategically, so that over the course of a year their confidence grows. Don't always look for the big push moments. Just steady growth over a long period of time, and those students will look back on those years that you invested in them, even though they were quiet, and they will tell you how impactful you were because you just were present with them and you just kept asking to hear their voice. And so when they did speak, it was really meaningful.
Yeah. Maybe if you can also speak to the more like leader, like if we're inviting students to take on some leadership responsibilities in our ministry, it's easier to think about like, oh, I can let a student host, I can let a student, lead a game, or, here's a student that can lead the conversation, the questions. What are some of the opportunities around leadership opportunities, or are there that for somebody that is more introverted, they could be a part of?
Oh man. So yeah, you're more withdrawn student. So not every leadership thing has to be up front. So there are, Jeremy, let's brainstorm together. Like, what sorts of things are there in the regular rhythms of youth ministry where you could invite somebody who's not an upfront, outgoing speaker of a leader, where you could invite them to have some leadership influence. So maybe you've got like a steering committee team made up of students, and they get together once a month to think up of a new idea for something in the youth group that's going to happen the next month. And that might be a good setting to empower some of your more introverted students who can design a game, or design an experience, or a faith experience, or a worship night, or a prayer time, or a service project, something like that. Maybe you've got students who like hard work, but they don't want to get up and articulate a devotional talk. So invite them and empower them to do some service opportunities for people in the congregation, and then have them be the ones who invite 3 friends to come join. Give them that leadership opportunity. So I think there's some, but again, you notice I like very quickly, and I'm frustrating to people, Jeremy, because very quickly I go to opportunities that exist outside of the regular youth ministry program. Because I think our youth ministry programs don't always incorporate a holistic development of faith in the lives of students, and they appeal. The way we pattern our regular youth ministry events appeal to certain types of students, but not others. So they can be exclusive sometimes. So if there's some students we're noticing that aren't getting involved, who should be getting involved, we've got to get creative in how we do that.
Yeah, and I think I guess I want to honor the fact that the questions we ask should be the ones that people have submitted, because now I'm like, oh yeah, we could go to like a broader like philosophy of youth ministry and how we might restructure and think about our programs in a different kind of way that could be potentially really valuable for people.
Maybe another discussion for another day. Yeah.
So perhaps that's another discussion, because it is a fun one.
Okay. So how do we develop that introverted student? Did I get off track?
No, I don't think so. I think you got it. And one of the things that and this handle might be helpful too, because this is where my mind kind of goes when you talk about the program. We discovered in I think COVID that for our ministries across Canada that we were interacting with, there were lots that struggled and there were some that thrived. And the ones that thrived seemed to have at the core of their calling as ministers, as people, helping the next generation follow Jesus, the core calling was, the goal is just to help these students follow Jesus. And then the format it takes can change into anything. The only thing that we're focused on is I've got Susie, John, and Larry, and they're in my ministry, weird names, but they're in our ministry. And my hope is just that they would love Jesus for the rest of their lives. And I'm going to do whatever I can to help that happen. And so those ministries were easy to come up with, oh, maybe we do this or that, the other thing, which is I think where you land with, hey, bring them on the way. Let's go cook a meal together. Why do you cook a meal together? It's not a commandment, and yet it's a way to express, living out your faith in a practical way, and it allows and helps students to kind of catch that. And so that idea allows us to say, oh, even in our programs, we do something, but it's not that we have to do it that way. It's just that at this point, it might be the way that works for the kids we've got in our group.
Hey, so for the leader who's asking the question about the introverted student, that might mean that you're extroverted, and so if you're an introverted leader, you probably aren't asking that question. Hey, what do I do about the introverted student? No, because you've had to deal with that yourself. Like, how did I grow? How did I develop? So if you're that extroverted leader asking that question, I would just say do a deep dive into understanding people who are introverted. Like take them out for coffee and ask them some patient questions where they can think and then answer, or go to somebody you know who is more introverted and unpack what it's like and what they're experiencing, and then ask them for advice. Hey, so I'm helping lead a youth ministry, and I've got 3 or 4 students who are just really quiet and they're not engaged, they're not stepping up, and I think it's because I don't know how to invite them into it, because I'm an extroverted person. So can you help me out? Help me understand. Give me some ideas of what to do. And even better is if that person knows these individuals. So I think just honoring people who are built differently than you, wired differently, who see the world differently, process information differently, understanding people and then treating them with dignity when they're different than you will be the first platform step for you to figure out a new way to approach those students.
And I wonder if that same principle applies to just a couple other questions here. So somebody had asked about, students that are involved
we had a
in
lot
other
of questions. We're like a couple
There's a lot
dozen?
of questions.
Oh my goodness. Okay, go.
Yeah. So there's one about, they're so involved in other commitments. We're struggling to find the time and space to build them up. How can I use the time we already have? There's another person, different kind of category. How do you navigate the students that show up to groups that you perceive are not there to learn or engage, but just because everyone else they know is there? And so there's these different categories of students that aren't there for the one way or the one reason that we think they should be. If we take the same kind of application, you might have to ask somebody else that's part of their lived experience, or, be curious about those students, and you tailor things to the individuals that you have, and that's okay. But yeah, anything else that you would want to add to those kinds of examples of but I've got different kids, the rhythm just don't work plug and play.
Yeah, I think they should get plugged into the Youth Ministry Coalition and do some long-term programmatic development in terms of discipleship strategy. So let me go to that for a second. So this discipleship strategy idea, because we could throw out a bunch of ideas, and that's awesome. And maybe that's the one thing people are looking for. Just give me one takeaway idea. But we've already thrown out several ideas. Mm-hmm. I think maybe we've got to decide on a spectrum how loose to how rigid our program model is going to be for discipleship. So, and here's what I mean. So you could have a really, let me call it a high model of strategy for program. And that's every Wednesday at 7, every Sunday at 9 or whatever. And this is the event of the weekend that we're all going to go to. This is our big activity. And you set your schedule, and it's all mapped out for the year, maybe for 4 years. And this is what we're sticking to. If you want to be a part of our youth group, this is what you're a part of. And you really dial everything into that for your discipleship strategy. There's a lot of successful youth ministries that happen that way. In fact, most churches, I think, measure success by that model as to whether or not attendance is growing by that model. So a high commitment to the program. But I think along the spectrum, you can go all the way down to a low model, a low program model, where you hold the model really loosely, and you're going to be more relationally based and more adaptive to the lifestyle of the students. So, and I think if you're in a smaller community and a smaller church, and everybody knows everybody, and you're kind of living life out among everybody all the time, that could be the right model to use. And so I would say just lighten up on yourself measuring success by attendance at youth group, and instead try to measure success a little bit differently. Maybe it's the amount of student interactions you had during the week at different settings across the Monday through Saturday. And then you connect with them on Sunday at church or whatever. So measure success differently that way. That allows you to, but you've got to kind of decide, where am I at on this, or where's our youth group at on the spectrum of high commitment level to program versus a low commitment level to program, and then be confident in it, and go for it. I don't think there's one model that Jesus prefers over the other, as long as it's helping people get to know him and grow in him and have a lifelong resiliency of faith. If they don't learn to gather together because you've got such a low commitment to program, then you're not actually developing a lifelong commitment of resiliency of faith to them. If they learn only that faith is about gathering in youth group because you've got a high commitment to the program, well, you're not necessarily helping them be lifelong learners of Jesus outside of the program. So there are challenges if you overcommit to either. Yeah. But Jeremy, I think that's important. So having the confidence of where our program is and what our program accomplishes is key. So then maybe you're like, hey, we want as many kids as possible to come to program because that's where we do discipleship. Well, then you need to decide then if you can have everybody who just wants to show up because their friends are there and have as many numbers as possible. That changes your environment. Or are you going to invite only those who are deeply committed to the program of discipleship? And that's the way some ministries do it too. So even within the different degrees on the spectrum, there are different ways to approach it. And so you've got to find the one that works best for you and your community, that you feel most comfortable with, the way that God's wired you as a leader, the people that he's surrounded you with. Anyways, this gets me excited about people joining the Youth Ministry Coalition or getting some youth ministry training, because these are the sorts of things over a few months period of time and a cohort of people wrestling with these things. Then the question, hey, what do I do about those students who are showing up who are distracting during worship time? Yeah. Then that question has a framework that it can be dealt with within, because it's like, well, here's our program, here's what we're trying to do. So here's how we'll tackle that situation. Because there's not a one answer to that. Like maybe you're cool with that because you've got students who aren't following Jesus, who aren't interested, who are actually surrounded in an environment of worship. Like, so maybe it's okay that they're there. Like, but maybe others are going, well, no, that's totally distracting. That's not what we're trying to build. Well, then you let them, you reinform them about what this time is. And if they're not committed to it, then they don't come. Yeah. Right? So you've got your answer depending on the strategy.
Well, and I think for anybody that's a point leader, like, oh my goodness, this is you got to dial in on this and wrestle with the ideas. And then as a volunteer, these are the kinds of questions you can be asking of your point leader. Hey, can we think about this a little bit more broadly? And when you feel like you've got some confidence in it, it lets you do things like, I think about Gail, who's a grade 12 small group leader with me. And she's like, hey, I like, it's fascinating and funny that the game you're going to play is, throwing hot dogs at each other in the gym. For the sake of these grade 12 girls, how about we just extend our small group time a little bit longer? Is that she didn't say it like that with
Gail
that tone,
awesome.
But like Gail is so wonderful.
Everybody needs Gail. That was Marge. Yeah. For me, that was Marge out in Parksville. Marge was so fantastic. And she almost every other week, she's like, hey, Ken, I know you mean really well here, and I can see your heart in this, but this is throwing a squid around in the parking lot is probably not going to lead people to Jesus. I'm like, what?
Well, and the hot dog example, it was technically two separate nights. But the point was that for Gail, she knew what her girls needed. And so she advocated for them not to change the program, because she recognized that it would be valuable for some of these things to happen for the sake of other groups and other students, but to say, could we have some diversity in how we express our program night? And so for her grade 12 girls to do some unique expressions was great.
I love that.
I'm going to rip through. I think we've answered a bunch of questions, and I'm going to come back to one. So rapid fire. So, and some of these actually we're not going to answer. So like, would you offer wisdom on how to have appropriate, healthy, fruitful relationships with youth who are coming from severely traumatic situations, especially those with students who are the opposite sex? I'm going to say, no wisdom in this conversation. But if you would, whoever wrote that question, certainly we wouldn't mind if you want to shoot me a text and offer some extra context. We'd love to help connect you with the right people when you're dealing with severely traumatic situations. Not worth taking advice from a podcast, worth talking to an expert, and worth having some very specific advice is what I'd say there.
Love it.
Anything different you would add to that?
No, that's great. And I would say with traumatic students who have had adverse childhood experiences, students who have had traumatic experiences, the typical traditional youth ministry model isn't always the safest environment for them. So just remember that and have that. Don't try to form fit them into something that's going to cause more trauma.
Another leader stepping into a church where there's no youth, there's a desire to see youth come and a youth group start, but there's no students and there's no leaders. And so what do I do?
Wait,
that's a little bit of, again, a different...
Wait, there's no students, no leaders, but we've got to have a youth ministry.
Yeah.
Okay, wait. Can I explore this for a second? So how do we start a youth ministry?
Past it.
No. Hang on.
If you want.
This is so fascinating. So we're a church. We feel like we have to have a youth ministry, but we've got no students, we've got no leaders. What do we do? So I would say, first of all, there's no such thing as no students. So are there grandparents in your ministry? They are connected somewhere, maybe not even geographically, but somewhere they're connected to grandchildren. So your church then has a call to help equip people for the work of ministry. So equip those grandparents for the work of ministry for their grandkids. Like empower them. Maybe see, again, why do we, Jeremy, we always fall into the trap that youth ministry is only a weekly program. Why do we do that? So we've got to bust out of that idea. Weekly program, don't misinterpret me. Weekly program is so valuable and so important. Do not give up meeting together. Hebrews, right? So we've got to do it. But Deuteronomy 6, like impress faith upon the next generation. So if you want to start a youth ministry in your church, you've got no students, find the people who actually have students in your church. And if your church has no connection to students at all, if you find that there's no grandparents, there's no parents, there's no teachers, there's nobody who ever sees a human being under 18 years old, then I would say you're not called to do a youth ministry. Figure out what you are called to do. But I will say there are churches in your community who have youth ministries, and what could you do to support them? Or there are schools in your community, and I would say reach out to those schools and say, hey, we're a church who cares about the next generation. Is there anything we can do to support you as a school? Because you've got 300 kids in your elementary school, or you've got 1,000 kids in your junior high, senior high, whatever it is, right? So are there families that need food? Are there families that need boots? Are there families that need coats and backpacks? Do you need anybody to come in to do after-school tutoring? Do you need any cafeteria monitors? Do you need para support in the classroom? The answer to that question is going to be yes. We need para support in the classroom. So if you want to start youth ministry, find out what your community needs and actually show that you care about the young people in your community and start earning the right to have a youth ministry, right? So start showing up in those places where the community actually has need and be Jesus for people. So I'm really excited about that question because I hope that the reframing of it, this answer reframes that and releases them to go, oh, wait a second. So I had a youth group, Jeremy. I'm going way too long on this, but if I had a youth group where we had 4 senior hires, and I was hired to start a senior high youth group. So I got permission from the church. This is a church in Canada that I worked in, to say, okay, the first year that I'm on staff, we're not going to have a senior high youth group, but we're going to take those 4 senior hires. We're going to take them to Dairy Queen all the time, and we're going to invite them to become leaders for our junior hires, of which we had like 11 or 12 students, and they're going to become our leaders for that. And over time, those high school students really grew in their faith because they were leading others. And those junior hires eventually graduated into high school. Next thing you know, the next year we had a dozen or so high school students, and we created a youth ministry out of that. So again, it's a long game. Don't expect, hey, let's invite everybody we know, and next week we've got 20 students, and now we've got a youth group. Well, hold on. There's more to the DNA behind it than that. All right. Sorry about that.
Fair enough.
Rapid fire failure.
That It's all good. It's all good. My last question for you, I'm going to get to here in a second, but I just wanted you to note there's some people asking about building relationships quick at youth group. That one we covered. That was great. How do we communicate? Yeah, so we got through really a chunk of these. And so the one that I want to end on is from kind of one of the earlier questions that we didn't get to. How do we integrate parents into the teen leadership process? And this will be where we kind of come in for a close. What are your thoughts on involving parents in all of this?
Yes, not every parent needs to do it, is my first thought, because we ultimately want to empower parents to be disciple makers in their everyday life, not just programmatically again. Secondly, though, it could be a great thing for a parent to be involved in your youth ministry. So meet with them one-on-one, show them that respect, and begin inviting curious, interested parents into it. Don't ever guilt a parent into it, because then they'll be committed for the wrong reasons. So invite positively into it. But again, not every parent should do it, Jeremy, because sometimes parents just need a partner who's going to walk in faith alongside their student with them. And so they actually need
and that might actually
leaders,
be what they're...
Right?
I wonder if that's where the question's going, is involving parents from like a, hey, I'm investing in your student.
Oh, good.
What's the connection that we have, with the parent? How do I set the parent up? How do I make sure that I'm honoring to that parent, and they're obviously caring more for that kid than I am usually? So anything that you might say in that regard?
Yeah, let me give a really simple answer, and it's going to sound ridiculous. Get yourself invited over for dinner or lunch after church. And have a meal with the family, and do that once a semester, and do that with as many of your students as you can. So if you've got a smaller youth group, that's very doable. If you've got a larger youth group, empower your volunteers to get invited over for dinner, and become partners with the family in their homes and in their activities. Find out what's really important to them. Find out what they care about. Find out what the home environment is like. Don't just assume from running into your students for an hour every week that you understand what's going on in their homes. So do everything you can to get invited into their homes. Say, hey, I'm spending an hour every week with your son, and I'm wondering if I can meet the rest of the family and hang out with you guys. And by the way, I like to eat. So do you guys ever eat? Can I come over to your house? Like, just be ridiculous and get yourself invited over. The student will think it's awesome, by the way. It'll mean the world to them that you're showing up in their space. And the family you'll earn immediate credibility, street cred with the family, because you'll be invited in. Next thing you know, you'll be invited into their major events that they're doing. And who knows? I've heard of even volunteers being invited to go to Disneyland or Disney World with the family, because they've just become a part of the community in that way.
So fun. One, if you're needing a handle, youth workers, often the one angle we like to suggest is, hey, you're a volunteer, you know the kid, you don't know the parents super well. If you say something nice about the kid to the parents, that's a huge inroad, an easy win.
Huge. So yeah. Hey, I really like Billy. I really think he's awesome. I see this in him. Hey, Billy, and if the kid says something nice about the parents, say to the parents, say, hey, Billy mentioned that he just really appreciated that birthday party you threw for him, or whatever it was, right? So Billy said he was had this big game last week, and you were there supporting him the whole weekend. I just want to say that's awesome. Thank you for doing that. So it's so fun. You can never celebrate the role that parents have in the lives of the students that you're working with.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, there's a couple of random questions. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hit those people up because they're, again, a little bit off the beaten track. And so I'll shoot them a note. But otherwise, I think we got through these big themes. So thanks, Ken, for doing this with us. Yeah, thanks, and if people, we'll link all your stuff in the show notes, but if people have got more questions, if this sparked more conversations or questions, be sure to, I leave my contact info, and so let me know, and hey, if we get enough of them, then we'll book you in for another call.
Hey, that sounds good. Good. As long as nobody expects a direct, short answer from me, I think we'll be good.
No, I think you're all right. Well, thanks for everybody listening. You guys, as youth workers, volunteer youth workers, you really are making an eternal difference as you invest into the students, into the faith of the next generation. So we hope that you have a great week in your ministry this week. Know that we're cheering you on from Moncton, New Brunswick, and Ken coming all the way from where are you
Minneapolis.
Minneapolis. Yeah. I love it. All right, we'll see you guys next time.